Well, thank you for joining me on this rainy day. As you can see, I've got my dressing gown on, I've got my copy of Court of Clouds, and I'm going to start with nothing, and I'm going to make a pantheon of new gods across this session. So, just to note, pretty much everything that you see here isn't fully indicative of the final product. I've already made an editing pass and changes to this. A lot of these assets are going to be swapped out before we get to the final stage. But this is the work in progress. In this case, I need a deck of cards with the jokers left in. I need something to write with. I need my book. Funnily enough, I actually don't need this sheet. This sheet is for if you're playing with a big table of people, and this is just for you. So we can actually get rid of that one. And we can just use these sheets here. One of which you can see here is a kind of a relationship web. That'll probably come into play when we get to entangling. We have our story list sheet, which once again we'll add to as we go. But this will be our most important one to begin with, which is a place for storing the information about our pantheon from go to woe. So I'm going to start with just that out. My lovely pen, my deck of cards, and my rule book. All right, now, when it comes to playing solo, the solo play rules are down the end, page 59. These solo rules have been adapted since, so I've expanded out these solo rules into kind of a solo light, a solo heavy variant. We kind of did the solo light rules in our previous post where we just made one god to some degree. Whereas this is a solo play for make a full pantheon. A full pantheon just from you. Okay, so it says, if you wish to see the system, or to use the system to world build or experience the drama of gods on your own, then approach the game in this sequence, which basically looks back at the phases which are already described earlier in the rulebook and puts them in somewhat a new order, encourages you to flick around. Create 3 to 4 major gods by drawing 2 domains for each before answering any of the prompts. Don't put the cards away yet. Name them. Okay, 3 to 4. So in this case, we're going to go the whole hog. We're going to make 4. Just checking I'm framed up. We're going to make 4. And we are to draw the cards. Don't put them away. And we have to name the gods before moving on. So in this case, we've got space for domains over here, name is over here. So, our first god will have those 2 domains. So let's have a look at what they are. So, the 5 of clubs is god of the afterlife. We have the king of spades, which is either diplomacy or decorum. I like decorum just because existing in the afterlife is probably not something where you're going on long trips to be a diplomat. But bearing in mind, that's just me going off the gut. Now, I've not answered question for this god yet. And I'm going to not put these cards away for the moment. I think because we loop back and we find one of their prompts to answer. But let's have a look at who's next. Good shuffling, Dave. The Queen of Spades, either adventure or journeys. Stuff it. We'll make this exciting. Go for adventure. The god of adventure and the Ace of Hearts, either sex or passion. It's not fully in frame, is it? Yeah, either sex or passion, which is interesting. I'm going to... Yeah, let's do it. Adventure and sex, which is a fun combo next to Afterlife and Decorum. I can see these two not necessarily getting on terribly well. I'll just remember that those two are for the next god over. For god number 3... 6 of diamonds, god of destiny. Destiny and the 10 of spades. Wind or storms? Ooh. I like storms. Destiny and storms. Gives us more energy in the system. Destiny plus storms is pretty cool. And then last but not least, 2 hearts. There we go. This is the god of either protection or healing. Healing. And the 8, either royalty or authority. We'll go authority. All right, there we go. So we have these individuals. Now we are encouraged to name them. We have a space in here for names. I guess we can also give them minor domains as well, can't we? Oh, no. We follow the rules. Minor domains come later. Yes. Okay. Name and identity. So we can draw to randomize gender, and we have a space on the sheet here to note down kind of gender here, which I am going to do. So in this case, our god of the afterlife and decorum is a black number feminine, and their name is the 8 of diamonds. Now, the X at the start of the name, we replace with the first letter of one of our domains. In this case, to put the A there at the start is going to make this difficult to pronounce, so I'm going to put the D, Danaeus. Okay. The god of adventure and sex is a face card, neither, both, they, them. Tracks. And their name, Joker. In this case, a black Joker, which means that we're down the bottom here. We're one of the first, and Aok or Sock. I'm going to put Aok, just because it appeals to me. Okay. Destiny and storms. Gender is a red number, masculine. And we have the 8 of clubs, something luvius. And so we take the first letter and the first vowel of one of them. So this is either soluvius or deluvius. I'm going to go soluvius, just so that we don't get confused with Danaeus. So Danaeus, Aok, and Soluvius are our current gods. And our last but not least, healing and authority is a black number, is also feminine. And their name is the 7 of diamonds, Zintius. So in this case, Hintius or Aentius. We'll go Hintius. Or Hintus. 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 Danaeus, Aok, Soluvius, and Hintus are our current 4 major characters. Heading back to the solo play rules. Name them. Decide which of the 2 domains for each god is more interesting, then find and answer that prompt for each, using the second domain to direct your answers and decisions. You may give them minor domains at this stage. Okay, these were the cards that we used to give them their domains in the first place. So, afterlife or decorum, which is more interesting. I'm going to go for decorum. So in this case, from my tracking, that is the the king of spades. What ritual or deference shows deep respect for another mortal or god? And I'm going to try and use the fact that it is afterlife there. Potentially a ritual where, kind of in a similar way to greeting some kind of like officials, you kind of list off some achievements in life. So you attach a bunch of epithets to their name to celebrate the fact that they've done super well. List achievements. in this case, it says this is the time to give minor domains, which I'm going to do. So, before moving on, Danaeus gets the minor domain of the Ace of Spades, which is over here. Finding or misplacing things. I'm actually going to say finding things, because I think maybe there is this sense of like collecting people for the afterlife, and also kind of collecting grand achievement people for the afterlife. Okay. Adventure and sex, which are the Queen of Spades and the Ace of Hearts. I'm going to go for the Queen of Spades for adventure. What do adherents deliberately leave behind them while they travel? And to connect it to this is interesting. So I'm going to say that adherents deliberately leave behind like broken hearts. Like there's this sense of like not getting attached, like still having fun when you're in an area, but not getting attached. Leave behind kind of lovers and broken hearts. And I also love that it's adherents here. So in this case, you could build a world where there are effectively monks or priests of Aok, but these are kind of quite kind of liberated or libertine monks traveling across the land who, yes, are seeking experience and adventurous experience at that, but are kind of forbidden by oath to settle down. It's a very kind of like anti-Jedi aesthetic to some degree of not being held back and not being repressed per se, but the thing that you are not supposed to do is become attached and therefore end your journey somewhere or end your adventure. The adventure must be prolonged or protracted. Yeah, that's actually really, really cool. All right, minor domain for Aok is going to be the 5 of Spades, which is a chosen travel method. Fantastic, because we're already traveling around. But we have to choose a travel method. Let's just say horse riding. Destiny and Storms, Saluvius, which will make either the 6 of Diamonds or the 10 of Spades. I'm going to go for Destiny. Okay. How can mortals see and unlock secrets of the future? Can a prophesized outcome be changed? And we also have a title to add to the story list. How can mortals see and unlock the future? Well, in a storm, evidently. Let's call it lightning reading. That's awesome. So instead of kind of throwing the entrails on the ground and kind of deciding from that, you read the lightning. And like when it strikes, that is our method of divination. Lightning reading. Sweet. There is a second question. Can a prophesized outcome be changed? I am going to say, for the sake of things, that yes, a prophecy can be changed. And really, this is a really important choice if you get Destiny. There's this, and there's also, I think there's another one that's like, God of Time has a big one, as does the... Effectively, there's one that's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Time, actually, that asks, are the gods naturally immortal? Yes, are the gods naturally immortal? And so there is, that sets up a really big set of parameters for the stories that you might tell if time is fixed, or if gods are mortal or immortal, has a huge flow-on effect for what the potential aspects are. And in this case, it also kind of takes the teeth a little bit out of the grand prophecy, which I'm going to add to the story list anyway, because it just says add and not may. So I'm going to add my first title to the story list, the grand prophecy. But given that we have answered the question that way, the grand prophecy can be changed or altered. It might be particularly difficult, but it's possible. Okay. And a minor domain for Saluvius is the Jack of Diamonds. Jack of Diamonds. Boats or carts? Interesting. We'll go boats. Destiny, storms, and boats. Maybe you do your lightning reading best when you're out in the middle of the open ocean. Real kind of sublime, letting yourself being overtaken by the forces of nature. All right, healing and authority, which are the 6 and 8 of hearts. I do need to pick before we dive in. I'm going to go with healing. Choose another god at the table. Their god will owe you a favor. Add a favor owed and the debt repaid to the story list. Now, I am going to kind of apply and edit, and that we're just going to add the debt repaid. So not 2 titles, but just the one. But we have to choose another god at the table to owe Hintus a favor. And in this case, I'm going to say that Aok owes a favor. Now, if we were doing a multiplayer session, of course you would need to get Aok's player's permission to forge that link. But because we're solo, we can kind of choose as we like. And this is where we can start to record things here. So I'm going to space out my main gods. And I can chuck a line between them just for my own notes. Owes a favor. And we are told to add the debt repaid to the story list. Now, there is a space here for notes about the story, just so that I don't forget later. I'm just going to make a note that this is between Aok and Hintus. Yep. Whereas the Grand Prophecy isn't linked to a particular thing. There is just a Grand Prophecy in play because the God of Destiny got drawn. This one is particularly about these individuals, despite the fact that they are not actually in the story title. Okay. And last but not least, the minor domain for Hintus is going to be the Ace of Diamonds, which a particular star or constellation. Well, look, let's make up a constellation here. So, and we'll link it to our authority. So this might be kind of the King's constellation. Yes, cuddles are fun. Yes, look, it's camera. Yes, it's all very exciting, isn't it? And so we're back to the solo rules. So decide which of the 2 domains is more interesting. Then we've found and answered the prompt. We have given them minor domains. Draw 3 more major domains to create minor gods and to name them. Okay, so we have space down here for the minor gods. In this case, these are not our main characters. These are 3 minor characters for our court. So in this case, they only get 1 domain each. And we don't have to kind of answer the prompt or do anything with them here. So we have the 10 of Hearts. There is a god of creation or craftsmanship. It actually doesn't say in the solo rules, but in the instance of drawing for the minor gods, you always pick the first of the options. So in this case, this is a god of creation. A god of creation. They are a red number, so we're masculine, and we have the name, the 3 of Diamonds, Silas. Done. Notice that we haven't put any cards away yet, so all the cards we have used are previously still out of the deck, and there's a reason for that, so that we don't get any double ups at this stage, either in name or domain, etc. So, next one is the 6 of Clubs, the Void. Nice, we've got some kind of very proto, almost Titan-esque gods down here. we get a face card, which I believe is a they, them. Yes, they, them. And our name is with Abda. So this is Vabda for void. Nice. And last but not least, the 6 of spades, sorrow. Wow, nice. Sorrow for here, and we are a black number. We are feminine, and our name is the Ace of Clubs, which is one of these very long ones, which is Solidora, according to the rules currently in this book. Solidora. Nice. Very, very cool. And then we shuffle all the cards back into the deck. So, how long are we into this video? It's still like sub half an hour. But in this case, we have 7 deities, 4 major, 3 minor. And we have already started to kind of find some cool things about the world. Like, for instance, I love the lightning reading divination thing. I think that is cool, and the priests are adherents of the god Aok. I think they're both really, really cool outcomes. And if we were to use this for an RPG setting or for a story, these would be the things felt on the ground. Alongside this, the way to show deference is to list achievements. All of those start to really build culture, which is what's going to be felt ground level by the mortals or the players or the readers, depending on what story we are telling. Okay, it says draw from the deck until you collect 2 or 3 from a more complex game cards of each suit, discarding all extras including jokers. Okay, I'm going to collect 2 of each suit. Done. Sweet. I've collected them in a pile. Now I know what's coming up, so I'm going to very quickly translate my Pantheon sheet onto my entanglement wheel just before we get going proper. I'm going to spread out my major gods a little bit to give them a bit of space before putting in my minors. I also find it useful for this stage, depending on how you want to make these choices, to note down a little bit of gender here. And if you think you're going to forget, some indication of domain. So this is kind of like this is our afterlife person. This is our adventure person. This is our healer. And this is our destiny. These are just notes for you, obviously, because A, you're doing a solo game, but you're also just having this information handy allows you to make some of the choices that are about to come up easier to make. We're also then going to add our minor gods. We're going to add Silas, who is creation. We're going to add Vabda, who is the void. And we are going to add Solidora. Who is sorrow. Okay, this is ready. So, in the order of diamonds, hearts, clubs, and then spades, reference the relevant entanglement tables for these cards and make decisions as to which god or gods they should apply to or connect. Okay, so effectively, we have a series of prompts to walk through from top to bottom, and we're going to add them to our relationship chart here. Now, of course, we can do that with drawn lines, but we also have space for note-taking as well. Okay, the entanglement tables are here. So, starting off, the 7, chosen family connection to another god at the table. This is the kind of most generic one. You may choose the type of connection: sibling, parent, child, grandparent, or something else. But effectively, the two of these individuals are going to become family. But it's such an open-ended one that we will need to be clever as to what our choice is going to be. I'm going to ensure that creation and the void are titans in some way. So I'm going to say that creation is going to be the parent of destiny. Now, all that does is, like, long-term thinking, it means that we at least have a generation above here for whatever destiny is. Okay, moving along. The Ace of Diamonds. You are the current ruler of all other gods. What is a law you have created that all gods must follow or face your wrath? We have to crown someone. Okay, I don't think it can be Aok. I think he's too... they're too kind of like off the chain. I think Danaeus is a viable. I think Saluvius is a viable. Hintius is the god of authority, and is god of the King constellation. Yeah, okay. So in which case, Hintius is current queen of the gods here. Now, in terms of what law they have created that all gods must follow or face your wrath. As a god of healing that is owed a favor, and that's really all we know, other than god of constellation, etc. Because we could go generic, something like you need to kind of like look out for the physical well-being of the other gods. You have to kind of like with the healing aspect. Maybe we go generic. Generic has giant flow-on effects, but I reckon the law protect life at all costs. I think Hintius protects life. I don't think necessarily that means protects against all injury, but certainly to avoid killing. So this whole universe might operate under the Batman law principle, where the Queen of the Gods has stated very, very strongly, no killing. Killing not allowed. All right, over to the Two of Hearts. Okay, Two of Hearts. You are in a tit-for-tat childish rivalry with them. Do you secretly love or hate this other god? Tit-for-tat rivalry. Okay, now I could go Void in Creation because they seem to be at odds, but I don't know whether that's a tit-for-tat thing. And I do want Aok to be involved in a tit-for-tat. Let's go... This is a serious conversation, but I actually love it based on the flow-on question. And I think this is, just for the sake of spiciness, secretly love. And I think the secretly love thing is particularly salacious because we know that Aok, the adherents, are not to form attachments. And so in this case, maybe Aok themselves is struggling because they want to form an attachment with Solidora, but by their own example, can't. And the tit-for-tat definitely is kind of like happiness versus sorrow, but maybe there's kind of like the yin and yang, kind of like push and pull of that between the two. All right, and the 4. Your mortal following can be shallow and disobedient. How do they betray one of your commands or domains? Now, we could immediately go after the one law we have expressed, which is Hintius. And so if Hintus's followers are shallow and disregard some aspect, then we can kind of get around this Batman law. But I'm going to pick someone who hasn't been connected in yet. I'm actually going to say this applies to Danaeus. So Danaeus, I'm going to add it to this sheet here. Shallow following. Because they also have a kind of accepted commandment or law here, which is this deference and this decorum, the listing of achievements to show deference. And so maybe kind of how they are sticking up their noses at that ruling is maybe there is a kind of only focus on the present. So an orthodox follower of Danaeus would be one who would kind of like know your achievements and would cite them and would use that as the basis on which to kind of like judge and honor you. Whereas someone who is part of the shallow following may still be trying to get into the afterlife, but is kind of more suspicious, more focused on the present only, is not taking in past deeds, is not looking at the resume. Intrigue. Okay, next. The Queen of Clubs. Okay, this says, you possess a glorious set of divine servants. How do these servants appear to mortal eyes? Okay, someone's got some sweet angels. It says a glorious set. The only person who hasn't got anything yet is Vabda. But I want to focus more on my four mains. Saluvius, I think. Because we're going to have like Storm Riders. Or lightning servants. Maybe who could have weaved the fate into the air. Yes. Lightning weavers. And how do they appear to mortal eyes? Look probably like cloud beings, radiating with energy and power. Sweet, lightning weavers. Okay, next, the King of Clubs. You possess an overt symbol of divine authority. A clown. Is it a crown, a raiment, a weapon, or something else? Divine authority. Well, we know Hintus is the divine authority and is the god of authority. So, whilst we could pick someone else, I think it's safe to say that we just pick Hintus again. What do they possess that is an overt symbol of divine authority? I'm going to say, just because Healer is putting me in mind of the staff with the snake around it, the staff, I believe it's of Asclepius, possesses a kind of like the crown is a kind of a staff. So the royal or authoritative divine staff, which kind of counts in that weapon category. Okie dokie. And moving along to the 5 of Spades. You have a major secret plan that has been in the works for a while. You may add the schemes of X to the story list. Who's got a scheme? Who's got a scheme? Because if we choose Vabda, then we've got a villain. God of the Void. Secret plan. Yeah, right. So in this case, story list, we may add the schemes of Vabda, because the X gets replaced by the name of the god in this instance, unless specified otherwise. So we know who that relates to. And last, the 8 of Spades. You are secretly responsible for some great calamity. You may add the dark day of X to the story list. Now, secretly responsible means that I am looking for someone who isn't likely. Once again, Aok and Hintus both have something to lose by being responsible. Silas also, but Silas is a minor character. Danaeus Danaeus is becoming less interesting to me as we go along, but may be interesting in the stories. But in this case, this is how we make them more interesting. So we're going to add the Dark Day of Danaeus to the story list. Fantastic. And that's our last card there. So we go back to solo play rules. Then we shuffle all the cards back into the deck. It then says, complete the Genesis phase for your gods. You may ignore the alongside. So the Genesis rules has this table here, which has both the cause and the alongside. So in this case, what caused that god to become created and what was made alongside them. So we could ignore the alongside. In this case, because it's a choice, I'm not going to, so that we can continue to show that off. But first off, as the table, players work out the order of the god's creation, the oldest to the youngest. This can include minor gods, making guesses or considering or randomizing when things are unclear. Write down the order. Okay, so this is why we have the birth order column here as to who goes where. So we've already decided some things. So Silas, I'm going to say, is number 1. Gonna make the call that Vabda's number 2. Silas is the parent of Saluvius, and Saluvius is the god of destiny and storms, which is pretty early in the piece. I'm going to give number 3 here. What would be born first, adventure or sorrow? I think sorrow and the afterlife probably need to come hand in hand. So let's go 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I've established our order of creation. So in this case, in the established order, players expand slightly on the origins. We draw a card to understood the cause if a cause is not yet understood at all. And the alongside if we want to. Okay, so Silas, creation. We don't know how they came to be. So let's find out. It's a heart. A clash of primordial elements. I very much think that it's a divine soup situation. Divine soup has emerged. Alongside a culture or tribe of mortals. Wow. So very much like mortals were created right out of the gate by Silas. In fact, existed in creation before so many of the other gods. That's insane. Okay. Now I can make notes kind of here or here as we see fit. But we do have a very easy, in the beginning there was like this crash, this big bang moment. Silas came into being and mortals very quickly afterwards. Now the alongside is either something that was made at the same time as Silas or something that Silas made themselves. I'm going to say that Silas made mortals. So that Silas ever so slightly predates them. Okay. Number 2, Vabda, the Void. Also came about through the clash of primordial elements. I'm actually going to suggest that these two came about simultaneously to each other. And so Silas and Vabda were created at roughly the same time. Ooh! And the alongside is some singular magical or powerful item. Ooh! Nice. So there is some kind of powerful artifact. Magical / powerful item of the void. Let's call it the darkest corner, which is probably like an orb or something like that. Well, I'm picturing it's kind of like the center of kind of the last place creation reached, or maybe a place where creation hasn't reached yet. the darkest corner, an orb was made at the same time. Awesome. And of course, something like that could feature into our stories, or that could be certainly just something that you have in your world if you're going to write this book or play this RPG. This being kind of some eldritch level artifact born at the dawn of time, as either the first creation or the side creation of Vabda. I'm going to say probably the side creation. Vabda didn't decide to make this; it was just an off split. Okay, over to Saluvius. Now we know already that Saluvius is the child of Silas. Now, we could just take that as read, or we could draw. I'm going to take it as read as to how Saluvius was made, Silas as the parent. But I am going to do is I'm going to draw in case we draw a diamond, because this diamond would say the union of parents, which that would indicate to me then that Silas and Vabda had a relationship. If we draw anything else, pretty much anything else, then it would suggest that this parenting was actually kind of more of a soul creator moment. Yeah, crafted or sculpted. So in this case, Silas made Saluvius for a particular purpose. Saluvius came about alongside a type of living thing. Destiny storms, we might go that sense of augury, so was made at the same time as birds. Oh, but boats. No, still birds. Plus birds. So flying things were born at the same time as Saluvius. Alright, over to 4. Hintus, who is the current queen of the gods. An act or event of significance to your domain. Potentially the first formation of or the first crowning of a human royal, kind of brought about someone whose job it was to shepherd that royalty. So in this case, Hintus emerged from that event, someone to look over that. And then also a type of living thing, some majestic living thing then. Of course, we normally have an association between kings and like lions, etc. I'm going to suggest that it can't be a flying thing. Probably shouldn't be a swimming thing. Probably shouldn't be a horse. Just to avoid the lion thing, I'm going to go for a different King of the Jungle vibe. I'm going to go something like an elephant coming into play at the same time. They're like this grand, lordly element. And you could then have the divine stuff being made of like elephant's tusks. Yes, good. All right. 5. Sorrow. An act of significance to your domain. Okay. A grand death, maybe like a plague, a spiraling out of sorrow. Yeah. Plague hits, and alongside is a new culture or tribe of mortals. Or maybe there's a split. The First War. First War and nations forming. And that creating sorrow. Sorrow at such a scale that a goddess forms from it. Nice. We're over to 6, which is Danaeus, which is God of the Afterlife. In this case, there's no. A union of parents. Okay, so we have to work out who are the parents of Danaeus. Can't be Aok. Could be Vabda. Vabda the Void, who is technically of the same generation as Silas. So much older, is going to have a relationship with Hintus. I think because a little bit void, so death or the uncreation. but also authority, so someone who rules over that and is a part of deference. So in this case, these two are the parents of Danaus. And so Vabda and Hintus are the parents of Danaus. And they were also born alongside a new living thing. Decorum. This is ancient. This is long-lived. It's kind of sad that we already have elephants in play. Let's call it like... And finding things. I'm thinking like an octopus or like a bowerbird. But I've already got birds. So let's go for it's kind of like a deep sea creature. A giant squid or something like that collects things in the depths and remembers. The sea remembers. Okay, and lastly, Aok. Now Aok, we know that there's a rivalry, but we know that Hintus is owed a favor by Aok. Okay, they were crafted or sculpted. Query, by whom? By whom? Saluvius, adventure, destiny, does make sense. Potentially as a counter to Solidora. Yeah, I'm gonna say that Saluvius crafted Aok. Aok being nice and connected now. At the same time as Aok comes into an aspect of culture, music, language, or royalty are the examples. Well, horse riding being the top there, so maybe even this concept of like travel or tourism or like broad travel for enlightenment, travel for something other than trade or moving to a new area, so immigration or emigration. Instead, travel for enlightenment, travel as a version of self-improvement, was an aspect of culture that came about at the same time as Aok. Nice. Continue to be on our way. For each of your major gods, choose a story title from the story list. Populating it from page 40, there's not enough for every major god. I think we have 4. We do. So that's okay. This story will be about them. Okay. Draw a card. This should say shuffle the cards back into the deck, mind you. Draw a card and consult the priest table on page 43. Then 3 cards, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 for this story. Consider, make some notes. You can expand it later, but dot points are ideal at this stage. Okay, so in this case, each major god is going to get effectively a mini structure for a story that is phrased through the priest table. And an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 prompt. So, here's the priest and elder table. And we turn to here. Now, I effectively have to dish out these story titles. Dark Day of Danaus probably needs to be Danaus's. Which is interesting because that frees up the Grand Prophecy to be someone else's. Aok and Hintos is the debt repaid. I think that has to be Aok's key story. So, in that respect, Saluvius got a destined... Oh, Hoodoo. No, that's fine. Yep, Saluvius then becomes the god for god of destiny and storms, so therefore the Grand Prophecy, which leaves Hintus to be the target of the schemes of Vabda, which is a bit nasty because, as we have worked out, Hintus and Vabda did have Danaus, and so they have been kind of in relation at some point. Alright, well, let's start from the top. Diluvius and the Grand Prophecy. The Priest and Elder table says 9 of clubs, but in this case, it's just the 9. A prominent religious artwork has been created to depict this story, which does make sense for a Grand Prophecy. Linked to an artwork. Okay. Now we get an Act 1, an Act 2, and an Act 3, and we don't have to expand on it right away. Act 1, a red 6. A festival falls apart due to straying from tradition. Act 2, a red ace. A deific fortification or dwelling must be constructed. Interesting that that scales into this, but... And then, last but not least, the black ace for Act 3. This is a return to the way things were, as though it never happened in the first place. Ooh. This says to me that this links to the whole prophecies can be changed. Maybe even that, like, not to bring it in so early, but like time travel or something was used to kind of undo this problem. And this was the way to kind of like go back and do it again. So like a dwelling place or fortress was magically infused so much that someone could go back and kind of do the festival properly or something like that. But then meaning that this fortress need not be built, or maybe it is so hidden or buried away. Intrigue. Now we don't put the cards back into the deck. This is to reduce the likelihood of repeats. It doesn't completely, because these aren't 52 card tables, but it reduces it. Okay, the debt repaid. This is Aok's story about him repaying a debt to Hintius. The priest says this story is the origin of an important pseudo-religious proverb or saying. This will result in a proverb or saying. Now you can see that this prompt definitely, and the artwork, right? This is a way for your story, this tale, to live in the world. So, the Grand Prophecy story, if there's a grand artwork linked to it, it might be kind of inside like the architecture of the dwelling or forts around this idea of kind of tradition being kind of protected and reinforced by the architecture. And so in your novel or in your RPG, those things in the world can be encountered alongside this proverb or saying that will kind of spiral out from this story. Could be used around the traps, and then your readers or players might go, oh, I wonder where that's come from, and it's come from this story about Aok and Hintus. Okay, Act 1, Black Jack. The realm is soon to be overcome by plague. Oh no, another one. We know that a plague... Oh no, we nixed that, didn't we? It's down to the first war. So, plague is still new. Plague coming. Act 2. Okay, a black 4. A great suffering must be felt and endured. Oh dear. I wonder if Aok needs to then kind of like stop journeying and maybe needs to kind of like settle in, particularly for a plague. If you keep traveling, you're a vector of transmission, Aok. A great suffering in this case may be to take on the sickness itself and suffer in place until it is done. The results. Return to the way things were, but with a god having been challenged to change their ways. Oh, lovely. Glorious. Yeah, that's a massive turning point in Aok's arc, if we were to consider one, where this plague is going to kind of give them this challenge to stay put, stop traveling, be in oneself, and potentially even alter how they operate and maybe how their followers operate in the world. Very, very cool. All right, Schemes of Vabda time. All right, is a 7. This story is age restricted. Which, once again, could be... We could be telling the origin story of Danaeus here. But, we'll see. We'll see whether the random prompts lead us that way. Okay, Act 1. A Black King. There is madness in the heart of the king. Now, in later editions, I've in the heart of the royal, and in this case, Hintus is the royal, the divine royal of the royal. So potentially Hintus is going mad in some way, shape, or form. Maybe why she ends up hooking up with Vabda. All right. Act 2, a Red King. An alliance must be forged between previously warring factions. Ooh. I mean, I think you know what it means by alliance formed. Particularly if the story is age restricted. Woo woo. And then Act 3, a Red Queen. Something is permanently changed. Someone now has a new level of authority. Whoa. The scheme of Abda then might be, and I mean, this might be actually, once again, age restricted tale. Potentially this madness that has caused Hintus and Vabda to get together was a scheme the whole time. An awful scheme. And if this means that a god has a new level of authority, Vabda has gone from being this kind of like darkness from the dawn of creation through to the parent of the god of the afterlife and consort to the queen. So in this case, that is a significant raise in station, but also incredibly manipulative if Vabda was the cause of the madness that caused Hintus to form this connection. And you can see why that would be age restricted. Okay, the Dark Day of Danaus. Now we know about this, and I should have noted kind of like this is a like calamity that Danaus has secretly caused to happen. So quite likely this, whatever the problem is, the madness, the plague, the festival strays, so the Act 1 problem will be Danaus' fault in some way and will result in a big calamity of sorts. Okay, but the priest says, this is a proverb. Which is interesting because Danaus is secretly responsible for this, but there is a tale being told about it, obviously. So you can decide where on your timeline that secret comes out. Why do mortals know it? Why is it so well known that it's a proverb? But, oh well. Act 1. A Red Jack. The food has run out, and now many will starve. Okay. Has caused this, which is interesting because we're afterlife and we are decorum. I wonder how one of those two things would have created a food shortage. Maybe too many people have kind of like died and been held on to. Maybe this is also a population crisis. Anyway, Act 2, the Red King. An alliance must be forged between previously warring factions. Again, so we have our double up now twice. And so you can see how we do get some rhyming aspects between these, like the proverbs and the alliance formed. But we have got both Red Kings out of the deck now. So we're not going to get it again, even when we hit the grand story phase. Interesting. So we kind of like go begging to someone. A previously warring faction. Danaus is the daughter of Vabda in this instance. It's unclear as to whether they are against Vabda in some way. Potentially between these two. Maybe Solidora is going to take the fall for the big death, kind of like how she did before, instead of Danaus. But anyway, Act 3, a Red 10. Something is permanently changed. Something in nature works quite differently now. Interesting. I wonder, because it's afterlife and it's kind of death, with the food run out, I wonder if there is some aspect of like the ecology that's breaking down. And so, for want of something more nuanced, fertilizer isn't working, or like the corpses of the dead are no longer providing nutrient to the soil, or yeah, there's been some ecological breakdown of death empowering life that has stopped. In which case then for this to occur and solve the problem, the alliance has to be with someone who can have power over that. We actually don't have that many nature gods. We've got no god of a biome. We've got no gods of a particular kind of like subset of kind of like nature or the woods or anything like that. So I guess the closest would be storms or creation. So maybe these two... Yes, actually, there's a life and death because these two were anti each other because they were born at the same time. These two, because Danaeus being the daughter of Abda, could be antagonistic, but have an alliance formed in order to reshape something so that maybe life is no longer dependent upon death to thrive. Anyway, last but not least, draw 3 cards. Now, we haven't been told to put these back in. That is deliberate. Draw 3 cards, consult the Act 1 table. Note down the prompts. Draw 1 card, consult the Act 3. Note down the prompt. Draw 3 cards, consult the Grand Tale table. Note down the prompts. Then sort them into a timeline that would make a grand tale for these gods and decide on a conclusion. Okay, I'm going to flip my page over to the blank side to do this. So in this case, we need 3 from Act 1, 1 from Act 3, and 3 from the Grand Tale. Alright, Grand Tale time. Red 9, Prophecy of Doom! Imminent. Second one is a mortal terribly misuses a blessing. Number 3, a red ace. The mortals are beginning to lose respect for the gods. Ooh. A minor character becomes a full member of the pantheon. Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense for something that happened during the Grand Tale. Alright, and we need 3 from the Grand Tale tables, which are over here. Okay, so, number 1, a new responsibility falls heavily on someone's shoulders. Number 2, a red 9, an ancient beast must be sought out and reasoned with. And last but not least, a black 5, a source of strength is corrupted or a weapon is broken. Okay. Now, the rules say that we are sorting these into a timeline that could make a grand tale. Okay. We've already done some work here, and I'm already seeing some connections, as I'm sure you probably are as well. Prophecy of Doom is often good to have a first one. I reckon then we have the Ancient Beast sought out, reasoned with, source of strength becomes corrupted. I'm just going to say this is actually linking to the Darkest Corner orb. The orb, in this case, the source of strength that is sought out, guarded by an ancient beast, by a mortal. In this case, that mortal misuses the blessing that is achieved from that power. They become a Dark Lord or something along those lines. Mortals losing respect. The Dark Lord rises to the rank of a new god with a new responsibility. So in this case, we have the rise of a Dark Lord at the end here. Well, you could even say weapon broken as well. You could link that to the staff. Maybe this mortal who is going to go from no one through the use of the dark powers to the head of the gods breaks the staff. And that new responsibility is the king or queendom of the gods now. A mortal through the power of the ancient darkness from the dawn of time, rising to the top of the divine pyramid and overtaking the highest ranks of the gods. So there you have it. That was a solo playthrough of Court of Clouds, where we started off making 4 key gods, 3 minor gods, working out how they're connected, getting some mini stories told, and then telling a big story to finish. All of these will have reflections and echoes in world building. Yeah? In this case, the fact that these gods exist and were kind of chosen by the community, whether they be real or fictional in your story, tells you something. And these stories being spoken and well known will have some reflective quality in the way people think, behave, how their morality is shaped. And you can either have these as forces in your world, particularly if they're not real. So in this case, if Danaus is a not real god, but people believe in a god of the afterlife and of decorum, how does that change morality and behavior? What does politeness do then in a world where it is next to essential for getting into the afterlife, perhaps, to be polite, despite the fact that they have a shallow following? But if they are real, then in your novel or your fantasy RPG or whatever, how does this individual then interact with the world? In what way are they interventionist, if at all? If one was to play a cleric of Danaus, what would that look like? Someone who is, for instance, finding and collecting things like a bowerbird, or like the deep sea creature, who knows everyone's achievements in the party, who announces them in front of like royalty when they walk into the big room together. Yeah, same with any of these. What would a cleric of Aok look like? What would a paladin of Saluvius look like? Yeah, in this case, you have lots of ways to have these forces interact with and shape civilizations and societies. And you even have some kind of early inferences, like who was this first war between that formed Solidora, the first war that formed the two first great nations? Are they still around, or are they ancient empires? Could we find ruins from this time, etc.? Great. And lots of things, and of course, like divine creatures, like if we come across an elephant, like what power is understood by that, given that the queen of the gods, the goddess in charge, literally the goddess of authority, is kind of crowned or has established themselves alongside this creature. Lots to consider, lots of cool stuff flowing from this cool product, which you should totally back because it's excellent and it's very exciting and it makes cool and unique things each time.